After a bath in the wild, the cute rookie doesn't put on clothes. She slips into a skirt of leaves, not even worried a creep might show up. As the saying goes, what you fear will come. In a night of thunder and rain, an uninvited guest breaks into her wilderness shelter. Terrifying. Surviving alone out here is danger at every turn. And beyond human threats, animals bring plenty of risk too, like critters crawling into bed in the middle of the night. It happens more than you think. As the poster child for cute rookie in survival, Yingbao doesn't just try, she sets the example. A girl full of courage and wit, she steps alone into this vast wilderness. First priority, build a safe, comfortable shelter against cold nights and unknown dangers. On a stretch of gently sloped high ground, Yingbao shows real bushcraft skill. She swings a sharp axe, felling and trimming trees, processing the timber. In no time, she's cleared a broad work site. This open ground will be the foundation of her shelter, bearing her hopes and plans. Every tree she cuts becomes precious in her hands, the best possible building material. She knows that for a sturdy home, material choice and prep are critical. Carefully, she breaks the logs down, focusing on those thick posts that need meticulous shaping. To keep the structure solid, Yingbao is exacting when it comes to digging post holes. She spends serious time sinking 4 footings nearly a meter deep. Then she sets each post with care, backfilling soil to lock them tight. The work is grueling, but she enjoys every minute. She knows only a strong foundation makes a truly solid shelter. With the 4 posts standing true, Yingbao moves on to the ring beams. Using long iron nails, she fixes the notched beams atop the posts, forming a rigid frame. It looks simple, but it demands patience and precision. She works with steady hands, leaving no room for error. With the main frame complete, Yingbao turns to the flooring and a small terrace. She lays stout poles across the ring beams as the floor, and for the cantilevered edge, adds 3 more support posts. Then, on the main posts, she braces 3 rafters, reinforcing the roof with triangular struts. Finally, a long ridge pole links the 2 tripod frames, completing the roof geometry. Her pace looks fast, but in truth, she pours thought into every small detail. From gathering materials to cutting timber to setting every joint, each step mixing sweat with savvy. Fortunately, the installation itself is fairly straightforward. She used big iron nails to lock everything together. Otherwise, the mainframe alone might take half a month to finish building. With the shelter's core frame complete, Yingbao didn't stop there. Her focus shifted to the walls and roof and their layers. As a survivalist with a unique eye and flair, she didn't choose the usual bamboo walls that many bushcrafters use. Instead, she tried something bolder, walls woven purely from jungle vines. That choice meant a lot more work, because vines are far tougher to gather than bamboo. They grow deep in dense forest, hard to spot and even harder to harvest. Yingbao pushed through thorny thickets, climbing carefully along branches to find vines of the right size. Her hands were scratched by thorns, her clothes torn by branches. But she never backed down. Those hard-earned moments only strengthened her resolve. She believed that constant challenge reveals your true potential and is the key to thriving in the wild. So she dove into the jungle again and again, collecting those humble-looking vines. After 2 days of gritty work, the vine-woven walls finally stood complete. Of course, the roof needed the same care. No one wants to lie awake in a storm, listening to leaks drip drip. Yingbao knew this well, so she didn't use vines for the roofing. She cleverly turned to palm fronds. First, she gathered a mountain of them, broad, thick, naturally water-shedding, perfect wilderness shingles. Then, she lashed the fronds to long bamboo slats, weaving row after row of panels. The result was practical and beautiful. As she laid them down, Yingbao obsessed over details. Each row tight and overlapping, the upper fronds neatly covering the lower, maximizing the roof's waterproofing. She didn't stop at done for the roof either. She planned for light and airflow. She left a skylight aperture near the ridge so that sunlight could pour into the room, filling the hut with natural glow, and at the same time, venting warm air for a breezier interior, making it far more comfortable to live in. When the whole build was finished, Yingbao stood before the hut, admiring this wild little cottage. From every angle, it looked unique and lovely. The vine-woven walls, the palm thatch roof, all shouting her ingenuity and style. But she wasn't satisfied just yet. The land she'd cleared out front shouldn't go to waste. So she planned a small courtyard, determined to put every patch of ground to good use in this hard-won haven. She first set 2 posts in the ground to frame the courtyard gate. These would serve as the entryway. Then she drove sharpened stakes, crossing them in an X pattern, to fence off the plot along the edge. It looked simple enough, but in truth, it took real time and effort to get right. Guided by care, she completed each step meticulously, making the fence both sturdy and pleasing to the eye. At the top of the courtyard fence, Yingbao thoughtfully lashed a continuous ring of long poles, so the enclosure felt finished and strong. Over the gate frame, she handpicked a log with a naturally artful shape for decoration, giving the little yard its own signature style. And since a courtyard should make the most of its soil, a good hoe was essential. Naturally, that couldn't be skipped. Yingbao knew it well, so she had her tools ready early. She planned to break ground for a vegetable patch inside. Her favorites would go right in. She prepared 2 trusty tools, a flat hoe and a pickaxe. Each had its own strengths. The pickaxe excelled at hard ground, perfect for breaking tough soil, a true earth opener. The flat hoe, while gentler, was outstanding for leveling and dressing the loosened earth. With these 2 helpers, Yingbao began reshaping the ground. First, she cut a clear path across the yard, a walkway linking the gate to the steps of the hut. Then, she gathered stones of all shapes, setting them carefully along the route to make a path both useful and beautiful. To give it a more natural feel, she collected lush mats of moss nearby, bright green and full of life. With careful hands, she tucked the moss into the gaps between the walkway stones. And in an instant, the whole path looked like it wore a living green coat, bursting with energy. Water, however, was the weight on her mind. From keeping moss healthy to planting the garden and daily use, everything depended on a steady supply. So Yingbao decided to build a small cistern by the yard. She chose a suitable spot and dug into the earth, carving a rectangular pit. This would serve as the reservoir body. Next, she felled a few stout old logs, ringing the pit with them cleverly to stop the walls collapsing and to make the cistern look tidy. Finally, she took out waterproofing, a full sheet of tarp, and lined the entire earthen basin. With that, the reservoir would hold water without leaking away. As for where the water would come from, Yingbao already had a plan. He knew that to bring in water, he needed a proper channel, so he selected long lengths of bamboo. He cleared the internal nodes one by one. That turned each stalk into a perfect wilderness water conduit. In the wild, bamboo makes the best piping. Yingbao propped the bamboo runs on wooden supports, joining one section to the next, and built a long water line. Finally, she routed the line up to a spring higher on the slope, so the water would flow down through the tubes and collect neatly in the cistern. With cistern and conduit in place, Yingbao finally had ample water to water the terrace, and to tend the courtyard, while covering daily needs too. She stood by the cistern watching clear water stream gently in, filled with quiet pride and joy. With the water problems solved, Yingbao didn't rest. She knew the next tasks were just as heavy, so she spent plenty of time carefully turning over the remaining soil. With a hand hoe, she broke up the clods, making the bed friendlier for vegetables. Following her plan, she divided the ground into neat plots, tidy and orderly. On each plot, Yingbao sowed a different set of seeds, vegetables that would be prized ingredients later, and a cornerstone of self-reliance in this wilderness. To help the seeds sprout quickly, she made sure they had plenty of moisture, watering them often. That way they could drink their fill. With the outside sorted, Yingbao turned to cooking and fire. Out here, she knew a sturdy, practical hearth was essential, so she built a 1-meter square wooden frame and set it firmly on the cabin floor. To keep clay from seeping through the gaps, she lined it with layers of banana leaves. Next, Yingbao packed the frame full of yellow clay, tamping each lift with care. With the hearth finished, the fire pit would be strong and durable. After that, she ringed the clay's edge with a full course of stones, which not only increased the pit's capacity, but also helped keep heat from reaching the surrounding woodwork, making the place safer. The build phase finally wrapped up. She stood before the hut, looking at her lively, hopeful homestead, filled with satisfaction and pride. In the days ahead, foraging became her top priority. In these vast hills, food came from two main sources: plant foods like bamboo shoots, yams, and other edibles, and the second, wild game. But for a newcomer like Yingbao, the first was the clear priority. After all, wild animals aren't easily caught. In the nearby hills, Yingbao spotted plenty of wild yam vines. Excited, she followed each vine down and unearthed a trove of yams. Back in the city, these fetch a high price. A rare ingredient by the pound, and true wild ones are hard to find. But out here, she dug for half an hour and brought up 5 or 6 jin. The haul thrilled her. Still, the yams weren't the day's biggest surprise. Even more exciting, a bamboo rat burrow at the edge of a grove. Fresh droppings at the entrance, a sign the animal was likely home. Yingbao lit up, grabbed her shovel, and started digging hard. In under 10 minutes, she glimpsed a bamboo rat's head peeking from the tunnel, checking the outside world. At that sight, her drive kicked up several levels. She dug with even more force, the clang-clang echoing through the bamboo. Under the relentless digging, the rat soon exposed its whole head, snorting and huffing, as if scolding this brazen intruder. After all, she was tearing up its home. To catch it cleanly, Yingbao grabbed a forked branch. With a deft move, she pinned its head with the fork, then carefully eased it out. After a brief contest of wits and reflexes, the higher ground survivalist prevailed, of course. She secured the bamboo rat at last. She cut a length of bamboo, clamped its tail to the pole, and lashed it tight at the end. 2 to 3 jin of prime wild protein slung over her shoulder. 4 legs or not, it was going nowhere now, destined to become dinner. In the end, the prize couldn't escape and came back to the shelter with her. The dog and the monkey might have left Xiaomei, but when they saw the familiar catch, they stayed remarkably calm. They'd eaten bamboo rat plenty of times before. Back at the shelter, Yingbao lit the fire immediately. Days of building the hut and courtyard had drained her energy. That tireless version of her was gone for now. What remained was a weary survivor. To refuel, she cleaned the bamboo rat thoroughly, then chopped plenty of yam into chunks. The rat she set right over the coals to roast, its body turning as enticing as a tiny suckling pig. The yam went into a pot with water to stew. If the bamboo rat was the main dish, the yams were the essential staple. As the coals worked, the meat on the spit browned and crisped, a rich aroma flooding every corner of the shelter, while the yams in the pot simmered to a soft mash. One look, and you knew it would melt in the mouth. Starving after a long day, Yingbao sliced off a big chunk of bamboo rat and tasted it with bliss. Soon that wasn't enough. She pulled the whole carcass off the spit and tore into it with hearty bites, reveling in the feast she'd earned. Now and then she added a spoon of yam, its mild flavor cutting the rich meat. No question, bamboo rat is a taste you don't forget. Tonight, Yingbao truly replenished herself, strength restored, and a wild banquet savored to the full. But in the quiet of night, Yingbao faced the first real danger of this survival run. In the dead of night, while most creatures were deep in dreams, Yingbao lay peacefully on her simple, warm bed, her tired body slipping into deep sleep, unaware of what was coming. Just then, a snake slid silently, creeping toward the bed. Its body flickered in the dark, like a black ghost closing in on its prey without a sound. Fortunately, the little monkey on the bed was sharper than Yingbao. Sensing something wrong, it hopped on Yingbao's chest, trying to wake its sleeping human. The commotion finally jolted Yingbao awake. She sat up, confused, trying to see what was wrong. At that moment, her eyes fell on the bedding. And there it was. A snake coiled on the covers, its cold gaze locked with hers, as if mocking her fear and frailty. Terror shot through Yingbao. She yanked the bedding aside, exposing the snake to the air. Her heart raced. Breath quickened. It felt like the edge of life and death. But she didn't let fear take over. She steadied herself, sprang from the bed, and moved to the bedside, eyes fixed on the snake's every twitch. After the initial shock, Yingbao found her calm again. Gripping a wooden stick, she edged closer, resolve and courage sharpening in her eyes, ready to fight if she had to. A showdown, if that's what it took. In the end, she managed to grab the snake by the tail, dragging it backward. Through it all, Yingbao was fierce and focused, a veteran warrior in a sudden battle. The snake, by contrast, seemed rattled. It hadn't expected the frightened woman from moments ago to turn into a fierce tigress in a heartbeat. One hand clamped its tail, the other pinned its neck, leaving it helpless. Still, the snake was lucky in the end. If Yingbao were dame, that snake would have ended up as charcoal-grilled delicacy. After driving the snake out, she finally made it to morning. After checking the garden, she sat down for breakfast. For breakfast, Yingbao went straight for charcoal-roasted yam. The bamboo rat from last night was unforgettable, but that feast was long gone. Roasted yams, with their texture and nutrients, became today's breakfast star. Over the next 2 days, she gathered more vines and cleverly wove them into a vine bed for herself. Comfortable and practical, adding a touch of nature to the shelter's style. With the basics now fully in place, after more than 10 days of care, the garden was lush and thriving, full of life. Each morning, she rose early to start the day's work. Today, with leftover vines, she wove a small backpack basket. Sturdy and durable, yet light and easy to carry. Perfect for travel, foraging, and hauling supplies with ease. Picture it, Yingbao weaving through the hills with the basket, gathering ingredients, from wild fruits to edible roots, handling it all with ease. When moving yellow clay, the little basket shined even more. She made 14 or 15 trips. Without it, the job would have taken half a day to finish. She needed so much clay because of last night's snake scare. The encounter made her realize that hidden threats must be stopped at the source. So she decided to seal the gaps in the vine walls with yellow clay. That way, snakes, insects, mice, and ants couldn't slip in, and she'd be safer. Plus, clay walls bring a bonus. Warm in winter, cool in summer. In blazing heat especially, they help beat the temperature, making life far more comfortable. It wasn't an easy task, though. The clay needed was substantial, and plastering the walls took real time. Handful by handful, she pressed clay into every seam until the surface was smooth as glass. The work ate up most of the day, but at last every wall was dressed in fresh clay. It had been grueling, yet the renewed walls filled her with satisfaction and pride. With that done, the shelter was almost perfect, save for one urgent vulnerability: the front door. There still wasn't one guarding the entry, and it worried her, so Yingbao jumped into action. With a saw, she cut several wide planks, carefully joined them edge to edge, and nailed them one by one, crafting a sturdy, long-lasting wooden door. Yingbao's sense for dimensions was razor precise, almost to the millimeter. The door was not only reliable, it matched the shelter's style perfectly, adding a touch of warmth and a sense of security. After a full day's hard work, she was drenched in sweat, clothes nearly wringable. So she hurried to enjoy a long-awaited, refreshing bath. After bathing, Yingbao slipped into green, a dress of fresh leaves, cool and distinctive, with a wild, natural beauty. That night she slept soundly, leaving yesterday's fatigue behind. At first light, she set about a task that looked questionable at first, ramming a thick stick through a slim bamboo tube, then heating an iron skewer red hot and punching dozens of holes in the tube. You might wonder, is she making a flute, aiming to be a virtuoso overnight? But then, seeing her lash the perforated bamboo to a water bag, everyone realized the plan: a watering can with a shower head. A clever, practical upgrade, gentle enough for seedlings with their 3rd and 4th leaves, broad enough to cover a good swath of beds. She watered thoroughly for a reason: she was heading out to forage. She knew the trip might bring unknown risks and challenges, so she made sure the bed had enough moisture to stay lively until she returned. If luck held, she'd be back loaded the very same day. If not, she might spend 2 or 3 nights out. Either way, she was fully prepared, confident that skill and wits would see her through. Her luck proved remarkable. After just over an hour outside, she stumbled upon a persimmon tree in the wild, loaded with fruit. Each persimmon was unusually large, plump, and inviting. Yingbao couldn't resist. She picked one, and the soft, honeyed flesh filled her mouth at once. Astonishingly sweet, easily over 20 degrees Brix. Joy bubbled up inside. Finishing one fruit, she quickly set to harvesting, the little monkey scrambling up to help, eager to pitch in. but the tiny helper lacked the strength for the job at hand. Yingbao didn't strip the tree bare. She left some unripe fruit on the branches and a few ripe ones for the birds. Persimmons are a treat, sure, but her basket needed room for real staples. This time, Yingbao's main goal was wild yams or cassava-like roots. After some careful digging, she finally turned up a cassava about 3 jin in weight. And that was only the start. She kept going and realized it was a whole cluster. Even the smallest of the tubers weighed a jin or 2. Not huge, but respectable. Yingbao knew the largest cassava can hit 50 or 60 jin, true giants of the root world. Hers weren't that colossal, but the sheer number was a thrill, especially when she unearthed a bigger tuber among them, likely 4 or 5 jin. That made her grin from ear to ear. She could almost taste it already, buttery and sweet by the fire. In the end, the haul was substantial, easily dozens of jin all told. She set aside a few fist-sized roots as seed stock for planting later. The rest she eased from the soil, one by one. There were so many her basket couldn't hold them all, so she even used her shirt as a sling to carry the extra tubers. Even so, the straps dug into her shoulders and left them sore. If only she had a padded vest, it would have been far more comfortable. Still, despite the strain, her heart brimmed with satisfaction. She knew this bounty would carry her through the coming days with plenty to eat. Back at the shelter, she immediately unpacked the freshly dug cassava, stacking them carefully along the wall. These tubers would be her main food source for a while, steady fuel for the work ahead. After a day of labor, it was time to eat well. For tubers, charcoal roasting is king, so she lit the coals and nestled cassava among the embers. While they roasted, she turned to the persimmons that were still a bit astringent. With practiced hands, she peeled them, soon filling a basin with golden flesh. Then she strung the pieces on hemp cord and hung them under the eaves, clearly planning to dry them into sweet persimmon cakes. By the time she finished, the roasted cassava was ready. Outside, its skin looked charred and uninviting. Nothing to tempt the eye. But wait. But once the skin was peeled back, the soft golden flesh inside released a mouth-watering aroma. Yingbao couldn't resist taking a bite. The taste was heavenly, meltingly smooth and rich. That cassava was large enough to feed Yingbao, the monkey, and the dog together. They ate happily, enjoying every bite of the feast. After a hearty meal, energized and refreshed, Yingbao began digging again on open ground, preparing for the days ahead. Meanwhile, the monkey and the dog played nearby, chasing and grooming each other, utterly carefree. The peaceful scene was soothing, a picture of harmony. However, life in the wilderness isn't all ease. Even for someone like Yingbao, daily challenges remain, especially bathing. To solve that problem, she decided to build a shower area beside the clearing. She knew well, go a day without a bath, and not only she'd suffer, the audience would too. So, the construction began. First, she dug out the foundation for the shower area, carving 4 holes at the corners. Into these, she planted 4 sturdy posts, forming the main frame. Then she brought in 2 logs, thicker than her waist, to brace both sides, adding solid support. Across these heavy beams, she laid smaller wooden planks to form a standing platform. Of course, she wouldn't bathe in the open. In the mountains, one never knows who's watching. Safety first. So along the posts and across the roof frame, she secured layers of broad palm leaves. Splitting them in half, she tied them neatly around the frame. The result? A private shaded shower hut. Simple yet full of charm. For the roof and curtain, she used a large waterproof sheet, draping it from top to bottom to keep out the rain completely. With the structure complete, Yingbao turned to the water supply. Fortunately, she had already piped mountain spring water into her reservoir. All she needed now was a few extra pipes. At the outlet end, she used her old trick again, a red-hot iron skewer to make a homemade shower head. Watching water spray out evenly from it, the effect was surprisingly good. With the shower finally built, Yingbao could, at last, after a long day, enjoy a cool, refreshing rinse. Watching her relax beneath the water, you could almost feel the relief yourself, the calm, the serenity. It's the kind of moment that makes you want to say, "Stay clean and wait for me." But this time, those words might truly come true. For that night, as Yingbao slept soundly, a heavy rain began to fall outside. pounding against the roof of her shelter and shower hut. A steady patter filled the night. In her sleep, Yingbao seemed to sense the scent of rain. Suddenly, a strange noise sounded outside the shelter, a flicker of light cutting through the darkness. Her drowsiness vanished in an instant, replaced by a jolt of fear. Brave as she is, Yingbao went on high alert. She edged closer, and in a low voice asked who was there. At the door stood a hunter, soaked to the skin, eyes pleading for shelter. Though anxious, she calmed herself quickly, slipped a sharp knife from the bedside, and hid it beneath the quilt. Caution never hurts in the wild. Peering through the crack, she sized up the stranger. He called himself Ergu, a mountain local and a hunter as well. Excited, he told Yingbao that on this hunt he'd taken a rare, giant bamboo rat, but was caught in a torrential storm. Spotting a lit shelter from afar, he mistook it for a hunter's camp and rushed over to get out of the rain. However, when the door opened to reveal a woman strikingly beautiful, he was stunned. When the rain passed, Ergu thanked Yingbao deeply. He knew well that in the wilderness, opening the door to a stranger is risky, especially for a woman, so he chose to leave, but first left the prized giant bamboo rat as thanks. Yingbao politely refused, but he insisted, a rare and friendly exchange in the wild. At dawn, Yingbao set to work on the catch, a 3 to 4 jin beauty. With practiced hands, she cleaned it thoroughly and hung it to cure. The next few days were quiet, but full and content. Her drying persimmon cakes glowed invitingly, the reddish-brown flesh soft and glossy, enough to make anyone's mouth water. When she lifted one gently, a sweet aroma bloomed in the air, irresistible, soft and chewy, comfort in a bite. She chose them for breakfast, a special treat in a rugged life. Sweetness lifts the spirit, and in that sweetness she felt the simple beauty of living. The monkey and the dog caught the scent, bounding over impatiently. Watching them gobble the treats with joy, Yingbao's heart swelled with contentment. With stores comfortably topped up, she decided to visit a nearby village to buy a few essentials. Morning sun spilled over the winding path, the air rich with the scent of earth. She carried a heavy cloth bag, packed with rice and a carefully chosen clay pot, each step steady and sure. This time, Yingbao's goal was simple, to trade for a better quality of life. Clay pots could be crafted, but rice couldn't be grown here so easily. These mountains allow only dry crops, and by now, the planting season had long passed. So every grain of rice was precious. Something to cherish, something to turn into a real meal. On the way home, Yingbao's mood was light. She stopped to cut down a banana tree, its bright green leaves shimmering in the sun. She knew the tender core was delicious. Even eaten raw, it was sweet and crisp. She cut a few sections of the soft inner stem to cook later back home. Once home, she got straight to work. Carefully rinsing the rice, she sliced the banana core into fine strips, then placed everything into the pot to simmer. The aroma of rice slowly filled the air, mingling with the subtle scent of banana stem. A truly intoxicating smell. The fire burned especially strong today. The roasted bamboo rat, cured for days, was perfectly tender and rich. When sliced, its marble texture was irresistible. She tossed it into the pan with banana stem, a splash of oil and water, and let it stew. Soon the whole hut filled with an aroma that could make anyone's mouth water. However, just as Yingbao was enjoying a peaceful day, an unexpected visitor arrived. Night fell, silent and still. Yingbao woke to a faint rustling sound. Peering through the crack of the door, she saw a wild boar, devouring her vegetables like a mad beast. Rage flared inside her. She jumped up, grabbed a nearby iron pot, and banged it hard. The deafening clangs echoed through the night, sending the boar running in terror. When silence returned, she surveyed the wrecked garden, her once lush greens torn to pieces. Yingbao crouched down, gently replanting what could be saved, and carefully moved the damaged ones to fresh soil. Then, she set off to gather logs and bamboo, determined to build a fence. No more raids tonight. No matter what hardships awaited ahead, she vowed to keep pushing forward. To protect this land she called her own. Yingbao's hands were skillful. She first used sturdy logs to craft 2 solid wooden gates, cleverly using hollow bamboo tubes as hinges, so the gates swung smoothly within their frames, a simple but strong barrier. Her vegetable patch was safe again. Next, she cut bamboo into even lengths, around 18 centimeters each, stacking them high. Then she made short wooden sticks and, with ropes, slid them neatly inside the bamboo tubes. Whenever the wind blew or something brushed by, those bamboo tubes clacked together, ringing with a crisp warning sound like strings of pleasant little chimes. She ringed the garden fence with these bamboo bells, laying them out with care. If the boar returned, it would brush a bell, and the warning would sound, giving Yingbao time to respond. The whole setup looked useful and beautiful. She couldn't help but feel proud of her work, and to leave nothing to chance, she lashed a sharp field knife to the end of a long bamboo pole. A longer reach means stronger leverage, a tool to keep her safe and drive the boar away if needed. Now she was ready for whatever came. All that remained was to wait. With these careful preparations, she believed her garden would hold. No more free meals for wild pigs. Around midnight, Yingbao waited in silence. Sure enough, the big boar returned to the garden edge. This time, when it brushed the bamboo, the bells rang out, piercingly clear in the still night. Yingbao snapped to alert, quietly glad her precautions paid off. Seeing the boar unfazed by the clatter, she grabbed the field knife and hurled a pole from a distance to drive off the intruder. The boar only flinched, clearly not ready to leave. That did it. She was done being polite. Without hesitation, she charged with the knife. Seeing her fierce advance, the boar finally understood the threat. It spun and bolted into the darkness, leaving Yingbao striking air. After 2 nights of raids, the boar hadn't expected to provoke her this far. Too late for regrets now? She'd made up her mind. Yingbao would defend her garden no matter what. There'd be no more chances for this troublemaker. At first light, she headed deep into the nearby woods, beginning her search. Careful scouting revealed fresh signs of boar everywhere, and in the distance, a few playful piglets tumbling about. But catching a full-grown boar wouldn't be easy. So, after much careful thought, Yingbao made up her mind. She chose a spot where boars passed most often and decided to set a trap. Iron shovel in hand, fury fueling each stroke, she cut into the earth like lightning, metal thudding in a steady rhythm. After 2 sleepless nights thanks to this tusked nuisance, Yingbao's patience was gone. She meant to end it, clean and final, and she was already imagining that savory boar stew. To leave the animal no chance, she planned every detail. Just the digging took most of the day, sweat soaking her shirt, but she didn't slow down. At last, she dug until the pit was as deep as a person's height. Luckily, the soil here was soft. Otherwise, even a full day's work wouldn't have reached such depth. But this deep trench came at a price. Yingbao's hands were covered in blisters, and some had already burst. Her palms were raw, but she didn't care. She endured the pain silently, all for the sake of catching that wild boar. Failure was not an option. When everything was ready, Yingbao selected a grove of old bamboo. Aged and weathered, yet unyieldingly strong. She preferred old bamboo for its hardness, tough as steel, perfect for forging bamboo blades sharp enough to pierce hide. The boar would feel her vengeance. Young bamboo, by contrast, was thin and fragile inside, too weak to resist a beast's brute strength. So, resolute and focused, she crafted 20 or 30 double-edged bamboo spears. Each blade was honed and aligned carefully, enough to cover 3 full square meters of the pit's bottom like a deadly forest. She would crush the boar's arrogance and end its reign of terror. With steady steps, she carried the sharpened stakes to the pit she'd carved with her own hands. Every spike had to be anchored deep, rooted like mountain stone. She swung her shovel again, chiseling grooves into the bottom of the pit. Perfect circular hollows, each one carved like a work of art. These hollows would cradle the stakes, holding them upright, pointed skyward, silent predators awaiting prey. Then came the soil, packed carefully around every stake until firm. They stood tall and solid, unyielding like ancient trees. Once the trap was set, any boar that fell inside would meet a swift and brutal end. There was no escape. From any angle, no matter how it fell, at least 2 blades would find their mark. It's safe to say, it must be said this wild boar had finally met its match. Cross Yingbao and you'd pay dearly. Even death itself would come swiftly and cold. Her determination shone like a blazing star, lighting the forest she vowed to protect. This was her land, and she would keep it safe. During the setup, a sharp edge scraped her calf. Blood trickled down, but she only wiped it away and kept digging. Her resolve to bring down the boar was unshakable. Nothing could stop her now. After hours of toil, the trap was finally complete. 25 double-edged bamboo spears, 50 gleaming blades of death. They glinted coldly in the sun. The pit was nearly 1.6 meters deep, enough that anything falling in would find escape all but impossible. This was a trap built to hit hard. The boar would pay dearly if it stepped inside. However, finishing the trap didn't mean the job was done. To guarantee it worked, Yingbao began a careful camouflage. First, she laid a lattice of thin sticks over the top, like a cloak to hide the danger beneath. Then, she piled on dry grasses, weaving them into the sticks above. From a distance, the trap melted into the forest floor, almost invisible. To funnel the boar toward the drop, she arranged branches as guides so that once it stepped in, there was only one way forward. Those branches, set like ghostly rails, left the boar a single path, a narrow bridge to doom. Here, Yingbao's focus and grit were on full display. With meticulous planning, she paved for the boar a one-way road to the underworld. While gathering branches, she found several twigs coated in web-like sheets, an ant's nest. An idea sparked. She carefully brought those twigs back, setting them on a storage rack. To keep the ants contained, she framed the nest with small branches draped with leaves, a delicate little cage of her own making. Next, she poured clear spring water into 4 bamboo cups under the rack, cutting off the ants' escape routes. With a thin stick in hand, she tapped the nest lightly. At once, ants poured out of the dry leaves like a rippling black tide. But she wasn't finished. On the rack, she set a small trough, a drink line for the ants, as if inviting them to sip the spring. Stranger still, she sliced a few pieces from the remaining bamboo rat meat and laid them on the rack. It looked puzzling, as if a larger plan were hidden inside. Yingbao's crafty mind was firing on all cylinders. Using ants as helpers, perhaps she was about to stage a small marvel of wilderness know-how. What was she planning? We'd soon find out. When night fell, Yingbao treated herself to a hearty dinner. Every grain of rice in the pot was distinct, steam carrying a rich aroma. The skewered bamboo rat was tender and juicy, its secret seasoning making mouths water. Fresh greens from her garden gleamed bright and crisp, sweet and clean, a feast to repay the day's hard labor of setting the boar trap. Her dog and monkey shared the meal too. Amusingly, the dog tucked into the rice with gusto, while the monkey clutched the roasted bamboo rat, gnawing happily. The scene looked a bit comical, yet it was full of warmth and harmony. After a night of peaceful dreams, Yingbao woke at dawn. Her first move? Check the ants. To her relief, the ants were busily weaving across the rack, as if satisfied with their new home. Satisfied, she turned her focus elsewhere, cutting bamboo to craft a crossbow. Yingbao knew well, though confident in her boar trap, she couldn't afford to relax. Boars are cunning. What if it avoided the trap and came back to wreck the garden again? That couldn't be allowed. So, making a crossbow as backup was the smart choice. Under her skilled hands, the bow she built became a sturdy line of defense, a shield against the boar's next charge. It would also serve her well as a hunter's trusted weapon. Her meat stores were running low, only a small piece of bamboo rat left. That wouldn't last long. If she didn't want to live off greens alone, she'd have to venture out and hunt again, find new prey, and thrive in the wild once more. Bows and arrows, tools every survivor must master. Yingbao knew this truth well. With nimble hands and steady focus, she honed each bamboo shaft, whittling them into sharp bolts. The bowstring was pulled tight, not a flaw to be found. But even the best weapon needs to prove itself in battle. A test was in order. Standing 5 or 6 meters from a wooden stake, she steadied her aim, then released. The arrow streaked like a meteor through the air and sank clean into the post. Each shot landed true, showing off her deadly precision. Not stopping there, she studied how deep the bolt had buried itself, gauging the bow's killing power. When she pulled it out, the resistance was immense. The shaft seemed fused with the wood, unshakable, proof that her weapon was both precise and powerful. Deadly accuracy, unmatched force. It was a hunter's dream. With her crossbow complete, Yingbao's confidence soared. Armed with courage and wit, she knew she'd find her next meal in the wild and live richer for it. As night fell, Yingbao grabbed her flashlight, crossbow in hand, and headed for the trap. But to her disappointment, the boar had yet to step into its grave. Still, she wasn't disheartened. Every setback, she knew, was one step closer to success. So she decided to make the most of the night, heading toward the nearby marshlands to see if any fish could be caught. The swamps were quiet and mysterious. Yingbao moved cautiously along the bank, eyes scanning for movement. Suddenly, a streak of blue light flashed beneath the water. Yingbao reacted in a flash, raised her aim and loosed a bolt. With a hiss, the arrow struck dead on. A large fish thrashed in the shallows. Elated, she moved to haul it ashore. But right then, a chill swept over her skin. She looked up and froze. Across the bog, a massive crocodile lunged with jaws agape, closing the distance. Her heartbeat spiked. She hadn't imagined a beast this big would lurk in these swamps, but she didn't back down. Instead, resolve surged through her. Retreat now would only mean stepping into greater danger. Only by facing it head-on could she seize a chance to live. Swiftly, she reloaded, sighted the crocodile's eye, and set up a killing shot. She drew a deep breath, steadying nerves and rhythm, then loosed. The bolt leapt from the string, a streak headed for its mark. A sickening shriek. The croc writhed in agony, clearly grievously wounded. She didn't relax for a second. Whipping off her outer cloth, she hooded the reptile's head, blinding it from striking. Then, gripping a stout stick, she hammered its body in a flurry, each blow placed with force. Under that storm of strikes, the croc's fight ebbed away. At last, through sheer grit, the beast spent its final strength and collapsed. Cautiously, she checked. It was dead. Only then did she exhale. She gripped its heavy tail and slowly dragged it toward the shelter. It had been terrifying and raw. Yet she felt a surge of accomplishment like never before. Not only had she won a haul of meat, she'd grown fiercer and steadier on the path of survival. The way back was long, and the croc weighed a ton. She paid for every step. Teeth clenched, hauling inch by inch, clothes soaked with sweat, hands rubbed raw and swollen. But quitting never crossed her mind. Only one thought burned: get this feast home. After more than an hour's grind, she finally reached the shelter. Collapsing to the ground, she stared at the prize, satisfaction flooding in. Tough as it was, the taste ahead made it worth it. Every ounce of effort had paid off. At first light, Yingbao rose early to process the croc. Skilled hands peeled the hide clean. Then she hung the meat over coals to smoke and cure. The skin, though, needed special care. And Yingbao decided she planned to turn the crocodile hide into something useful. While gathering supplies in the hills, she stopped by the trap once more. But it was still empty, silent as ever. No prey this time either. Still, Yingbao wasn't discouraged. She knew hunting required both patience and luck. Once she'd gathered enough wood, she began building a special crocodile hide curing room. First, she dismantled the old shower platform. Then, inside the bathing area, she lined up rows of poles and began weaving the walls with forest vines. Threading them back and forth between the posts, she shaped a sturdy vine wall by hand. This room wasn't just a product of effort, it was a testament to her ingenuity. She built a leafy roof and gathered rich yellow clay from the riverbank to coat and seal the walls. After half a day of work, the hut stood complete, half clay, half vine, with a leaf-thatched roof above. A small opening near the clay wall served as the fire pit's vent. And there, she roasted enormous crocodile skewers. The meat sizzled, fragrant and golden, crispy on the outside, tender and juicy within. Even the little monkey couldn't resist, devouring it with delight. Its blissful face said it all, pure satisfaction. But the fire pit's main purpose wasn't for cooking, it was for smoking the hide. Yingbao hung the skin above the flames, letting it smoke gently over days. After 2 days of low heat curing, the leather turned tough and lustrous. Her technique was unique, precise. She knew crocodile hide was precious, and there was no room for error. When Yingbao lifted the banana leaves covering the roast, a wave of aroma filled the air. Beneath lay a glistening ruby-red slab of meat, shining like polished stone. It seemed to whisper silently, telling its own story of flavor. The scent rose rich and poetic, like a song of survival in the wild. It was impossible not to be captivated. In this wilderness, food was both wisdom and art. Locals had long found unique ways to turn nature's gifts into extraordinary flavors. And Yingbao, an explorer of great skill, was no stranger to that art. She decided to try a traditional twist, slicing the croc meat finely to let its aroma bloom even more. And just then, the ants she'd captured earlier finally had a roll. Tiny as they were, they crawled over the meat, nibbling and secreting a natural enzyme. Their saliva blending with the meat's juices, creating an even richer depth of flavor. It was wild cooking at its finest, bold and ingenious. The process was simple yet clever. Yingbao tossed the ants together with the meat into a hot pan. As the oil sizzled, the aroma of croc and ant rose in waves, filling the air around her. Finally, she sprinkled chili powder and spice, a fiery finish to this wilderness delicacy. And when the dish was finally ready, its charred, fragrant crust and the tender, juicy heart made anyone's mouth water. Yingbao couldn't wait. He grabbed a chunk of croc meat and tore in. The flavor was incredible, utterly intoxicating. The little monkey and the dog crowded over, eating with gusto, as if they too were savoring this wild delicacy. Life in the wild was thrilling and vivid. Relying on wit and courage, Yingbao survived this vast wilderness. Though it was hard and full of trials, it brimmed with joy and a sense of achievement. After the feast, he carefully inspected the leftover smoked meat. There was plenty, more than he could eat soon, so he picked out several prime pieces, threaded them neatly along a bamboo pole, planning to carry them to town to sell. In the end, he chose 5 or 6 cuts, weighing 4 to 5 jin total, each one giving off a mouth-watering aroma. As for the precious crocodile hide, after Yingbao's careful smoking, it was now dry and tough. He had no plans to make bags or trinkets, so he decided to sling both hide and meat together on a single carrying pole and sell them both. A little cash would help. After all, even survival living needs funds behind it. He knew well, to keep this wilderness life going, he needed some economic footing. So, he set off without hesitation. A long trek to the nearest village in search of buyers. After 2 to 3 tough hours on foot, Yingbao finally reached his destination, a small nearby town. Chatting with locals, he learned of a potential buyer for the hide. Apparently, only one person here would take it. The hunchbacked elder who ran the knife shop in town. A bladesmith needs sheaths. After all, and the best sheaths are made from tough animal hides. For something as rare as crocodile leather, he surely wouldn't pass it up. Yingbao felt a quiet thrill, hoping the deal would go smoothly. He stepped into the knife shop and was dazzled by the displays. Blades of every shape, each paired with a shining sheath. Lined the walls in glittering rows. Craftsmanship everywhere, a testament to the maker's skill. Just then, a hunched figure appeared, the famed hunchbacked smith himself. He widened his eyes, studying Yingbao, the practiced gaze of a seasoned trader. Then, his attention dropped to the hide in Yingbao's hands, and the judging began. First, he complained it was too small, then griped it was smoked too dry. But Yingbao knew the truth. This croc, nose to tail, was nearly 2 meters, hardly small by any measure. The quibbles were just bargaining talk, and he braced himself for the negotiation to come. The smoking had been done perfectly, keeping the leather soft and supple, a product of fine quality indeed. The hunchback's complaints were clearly just tactics to cut the price. Yingbao, however, stood firm. The old man then picked up the crocodile meat and with a condescending tone said he'd agree to Yingbao's price, but only on one condition. If he was to buy the crocodile hide, then the meat would have to be thrown in for free. Though frustrated, Yingbao reminded himself of his goal, to sell the hide. So he let the insult slide and focused on closing the deal. After a tense round of bargaining, he sold the precious crocodile skin for about 30% below market price. While the hunchback went inside to fetch the payment, Yingbao took the chance to admire the knives on display. Each blade was a work of art. The craftsmanship was exceptional, each one gleaming with precision. But the prices were nearly double the market rate, clearly overpriced. Even though he admired them, Yingbao wisely resisted the urge to buy. His own hunting knife, though simple, worked just as well. and cost only a fraction of those gleaming tools. In the end, Yingbao traded one crocodile hide and several kilos of meat for 500,000 dong, roughly $15, along with a few basic woodworking tools. The hunchback even tossed them in as goodwill. It seemed like a loss at first glance, but Yingbao knew. In a survival life, every coin counts. He pocketed the cash, left the shop, already thinking of how to use the money to make his wild home even better. On the way back, he was all smiles, tasting sweet wild fruit, humming a carefree tune, pure joy in his step. After all, he'd not only hunted a great catch, but turned it into money. It was the perfect reward for his hard work, and his spirits soared. Back at his shelter, he eagerly unpacked his newly bought wooden planks. With his plain knife, he smoothed them slowly until the surface shone like polished glass, bright and flawless. These tools, his extra reward from the hunchback, were, in a sense, paid for by the croc meat. Then, with deft precision, he rounded the corners of the board, smooth curves like a crescent moon. Next, using a hand drill, he carved fine holes, trimming the edges clean. And soon, before his eyes, a stunning handcrafted cutting board appeared. Then, he turned to another plank, and with his trusty knife, began carving it with care. Before long, a perfect hollow took shape, a beautiful, practical wooden spoon. Now his dining set had 2 new members, unique, handmade, and full of character. When dinner time came, Yingbao decided to christen his new utensils with a feast. Using the eggs he'd bought, he whisked them with fresh scallions and fried a golden, fragrant omelet. The scent filled the shelter, simple, warm, and deeply satisfying. At the same time, he grilled a skewer of fragrant crocodile meat, its aroma wafting through the shelter, and stir-fried a plate of crisp emerald bok choy. Scallion egg over rice with smoky skewers, the perfect clash of carbs and protein, mouth-watering to behold. The bok choy rounded it out with vitamins, making the whole set both delicious and nourishing. If anyone knew that Yingbao, in the wild, could cook a meal this refined and tasty, they'd be full of envy and praise. After savoring the feast, Yingbao decided to bathe, washing away the day's dust and fatigue. After hours on the trail, his clothes were soaked with sweat. A dip in cool water now would be the pinnacle of comfort. Yingbao's looks were striking by nature. From any angle, a rare beauty in the wilds. But during this tranquil bath, a mischievous river prawn pinched him, right on his tender backside. Annoyed, he cut the bath short. Those prawns would pay later. Then Yingbao moved to the bank, carefully washing his camouflage field wear. That outfit had become his trusted companion, his armor for expeditions, with him through jungle and scrub, so it deserved a proper clean, conquering the wild, one careful routine at a time. At dawn the next day, dressed in fresh hunting clothes, Yingbao took up his bamboo knife and set to work. He was going to craft a shrimp-catching weapon to teach those river prawns a lesson. His tender backside was not to be trifled with. The device's main body was cleverly designed, a bamboo tube with a slide rail paired with a shaped iron wire, the basic frame complete. Power came from a taut rubber band, providing fierce snapback force. After a few tests, the results were excellent. He was thrilled. But noticing the iron tip's striking area was too small, he tied several nails to the very end. Cleverly done. Now the prawns would be properly intimidated. With gear, you need the full set, no half measures. With the shrimp tool ready, he also needed a basket. Otherwise, he'd be stuck holding prawns. Hardly efficient for continuous catching. For Yingbao, weaving a bamboo basket was child's play. He'd woven so many before. Baskets, hampers, dozens at least. Under his deft hands, in under an hour, a handsome basket took shape. Light and easy to carry, it hung at his waist for quick drops. Perfect for shrimp runs. Now everything was ready. All that remained was the catch. With all in place, it was time to strike. Night fell. Cloaked in darkness, Yingbao shouldered his kit, a bright headlamp shining the way. He looked every bit the explorer, setting out on a mysterious quest. Leisurely, he reached the riverbank. The beams of his headlamp flickered like starlight, illuminating the dark waters before him. In his hands, the shrimp-catching tool danced, as gracefully as a performer on stage. Each strike landed with perfect precision, quick and merciless, a sight to behold. Such accuracy, owed not only to his clever tool, but to the night itself. Under his light, the fish and shrimp seemed spellbound. Their movements slowed, as if frozen in a painting. Like that unlucky catfish, thinking it could glide safely through the darkness, only to meet its end beneath Yingbao's tool, its life ending in an instant. Another trophy in his basket. In less than half an hour, he had caught dozens of river shrimp. Their once dancing bodies in the stream now lay still in his woven basket. Nearly 30 in total, an impressive haul. Then came a catch with a notorious reputation, a massive cleaner fish, known for its stubbornness and dominance underwater. This so-called immortal of the river, feared by smaller fish, met its match that night. Even it couldn't escape Yingbao's fate-sealed hands. Back at the shelter, Yingbao poured the entire catch into a clay pot. Fish and shrimp rolled and tumbled inside, filling the air with rich aroma. Then he skewered the river shrimp on iron rods, grilling them slowly over hot coals. Under the glowing firelight, the shrimp turned a dazzling orange red, emitting an irresistible scent. Unable to wait, Yingbao picked one up, bit gently, and flavor burst forth, filling his mouth with pure delight. He closed his eyes, savoring nature's gift, his heart warm with joy and gratitude. For a moment, the wilderness felt like home. As for the cleaner fish and catfish, they too ended up on his plate. At dawn the next morning, as life stirred awake, Yingbao was already up, ready for a busy new day. He finely chopped garlic and chilies, creating a rich, spicy marinade. Then he soaked 2 catfish and the cleaner fish, letting the flavor seep deep into the flesh. Wrapping each in banana leaves, he placed them over the coals. As the fire licked the leaves, the aroma of roasted fish filled the crisp morning air. It was intoxicating, a promise of breakfast. Beside the fire simmered a pot of pearly rice, plump grains, steaming hot, fragrant and inviting. The cleaner fish, plain in looks, proved as tender as garlic cloves in texture, soft, rich, and sweet. Yingbao ate in quiet satisfaction, his heart full of contentment. Even the little monkey and the dog nearby were drawn by the scent, scrambling closer, devouring the meal with glee. After the feast, the wild once again felt like paradise. With his crossbow in hand, Yingbao moved lightly to check the pit trap. The ground pit spear trap lay ahead. Its surface seemed calm, nothing out of place, until he gently brushed aside the grass, and there it was, a massive python coiled within. Turns out the snake had taken the pit as a cool summer refuge, deep and shaded, a natural shelter no serpent could refuse. Seeing this, Yingbao quickly grabbed a sturdy stick beside him, intent on hooking the python out. But sensing the threat, the snake struck hard, again and again, hammering the stick with savage force. It was trickier than expected, yet he refused to back down. Setbacks only steeled him. He kept searching for the perfect opening. After a dozen careful attempts, Yingbao finally hooked the snake's body and slowly levered it from the pit. Eyes sharp as blades, he timed it, struck once, and clamped the serpent right at 7 inches behind the head. Precision, nerve, and power on full display. His control was fearless and exact. The python was enormous, its strength daunting, enough to make most people flinch. But Yingbao lived by a code. He chose not to harm it, and released the snake gently back to the forest. Had it been other survivalists with a harsher creed, this python might already have become dinner. Yingbao's choice showed respect for life and the wild, revealing a wisdom that seeks harmony with nature. He returned to the pit afterward, carefully reseating the bamboo spear stakes below, ensuring each razor point still held its lethal bite. When done, he relayed the dry grass with care, as if draping a veil of secrecy over the earth. Whether he'd net that fat boar and taste prime wild pork, all now hinged on this crafted snare. Even without a catch today, Yingbao stayed calm and steady. He fanned out into the nearby woods to scout. Light on his feet, eyes razor sharp. Luck favors the bold, and today it smiled on him. After a patient search, he spotted a bird, wild pheasant, plump-feathered, bright and nimble, pecking calmly in the brush. Yingbao raised the crossbow in one smooth motion. The weapon seemed alive in his hands. One shot, and it was his. The pheasant dropped, but stubbornly clung to life, only grazed, scrambling to escape. He gave chase and slipped hard, his pants tearing wide, a flash of white fabric shocking and annoying. He winced at the rip, but the fire in his eyes didn't dim. He pressed on, relentless and focused. In the end, the pheasant couldn't outrun his resolve. He caught it clean. Carrying the bird, he headed home, his heart light with triumph. As for how he'd cook this wild prize, Yingbao offered a delightfully unconventional answer. Beggar's chicken. He was already prepping it live. Clearly, he'd made all the cooking arrangements. It was the first time we'd seen a method that didn't even pluck the bird. Yingbao coated the whole wild pheasant directly with yellow clay, then set it over spent charcoal embers to slow roast. The unique technique was eye-opening, and his creativity drew genuine praise. He cleverly skipped the messy opening reveal, but the serving shot was stunning. A featherless bird revealed at last, skin golden and tempting, perfume rich and savory. His technique was truly breathtaking. And if a few details were glossed over, well, best to leave the lady a little mystique. Faced with such a feast of beggar's chicken, who wouldn't drool? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. The line just slipped out, as if the dish demanded its own slogan. After a glorious chicken supper, the next morning arrived. Refreshed and sharp, Yingbao shouldered his crossbow and stepped into the forest. Another day on the hunt began, but game was scarce, or uncooperative. Mostly small birds at long range, and landing a clean shot would be tough. Worse yet, he'd brought a little dead weight. The mischievous dog blundered into a mass of vines, tangled tight. At least it wasn't a python this time, just the forest playing tricks. That dog's talent for holding them back was equal parts comic and painful. The little monkey, by contrast, was all help, no hassle, and soon spotted a mountain rat burrow. A closer look by Yingbao showed a large warren with fresh signs. He grinned. This could work. A plan to take mountain rats took shape. To make it foolproof, he started by sealing the entrance with rocks right in front of him. Then nearby, he found other linked tunnels and blocked them one by one with timber or stone. This time, he'd only brought the crossbow and his field knife. No digging tools, so burrowing them out wasn't an option. Instead, he'd try a new capture method, fire and flush. Before using fire, he braided vine into an irregular cylindrical trap, then fashioned an exit channel. A length of fat bamboo served perfectly. With the trap assembly ready, Yingbao dug out a pocket of space at a suitable tunnel mouth, then seated the bamboo tube. Now, any rat bolting through would tumble straight into the vine-woven cage. But to drive the rats toward that exit, fire was essential. Yingbao knew well that fire attack is fierce, but timing is everything with fire. He carefully kindled a small blaze, letting the flames creep toward the burrow. Heat and smoke built into a harsh warning, a threat the mountain rats had never faced. Because with a smoke flush, you don't chase them with fire itself. You use thick smoke from burning brush to drive them out. As the smoke poured deeper into the warren's tunnels, the rats began to bolt inside. What they didn't know was this. Every other exit had been blocked by Yingbao, so escape was all but impossible. The one open way out was a trap. That outlet's design was ingenious, exploiting how smoke naturally flows. The bamboo tube sat exactly where the current of smoke ran quickest and clear. Pressed by the haze and coughing, the rats would choose that route first. And once they did, one by one, they'd drop like netted fish into the lower chamber of the vine cage. Yingbao waited, steady. He kept the smoke rolling for about 15 minutes. In that long pause, his heart beat with tense anticipation. At last, under the smoky pressure, 4 or 5 mountain rats burst out. They scattered in panic, only to tumble one after another into Yingbao's carefully laid snare. Seeing it work, he couldn't help a proud grin. This rat-catching method, well, it's like a sparrow pecking a bull's rump. Surprisingly, gloriously effective. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any exciting upcoming survival videos. And finally, share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next adventure.